Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about a flicker in the water. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have Bob here, our special guest, who's going to help us fully understand about what this really means so we can think about it. So, Bob, thank you for coming on my show. Let's just dive right into it. What does flicker in the water mean to you when you hear that?
Well, hi, Mitzi. Thanks for having me. A flicker in the water means adventure at sea. I named my book the title "A Flicker in the Water" because of a tuna fish that we were fighting, and it was the middle of the night, and the shine in the water and the way the waves were moving made the water look like it was flickering. And I just thought, but not at the time, but years later, I thought, you know what? I want to call that a flicker in the water.
Yeah, I like that. I
It
mean,
was a
tunas are
tuna that,
big.
yeah, with really big, yeah. There's different kinds. There's bluefin tuna, which is the biggest one of them all, and then there's yellowfins, and then big eye tunas, and then the smaller ones, blackfin tunas. They call those footballs because they have the shape of a football.
Okay.
But the tuna that we were going for was I'm not sure if it was a bluefin or a yellowfin, but it was big. Let me tell you. And this
You
tuna
didn't
fish
catch it
bit.
then?
Well,
Mm,
I'll tell you the story.
okay.
It We battled it for about 2 hours. It bit in the middle of the night, like at 2 a.m. And we were fishing in the waters off the Louisiana coast. There's a lot of oceans in the ocean in the Gulf of Mexico, and we out of nowhere because we had fished for 7 or 8 hours without any luck, and then all of a sudden, at a the line starts going off. There's this big tuna on there. We knew it was a tuna because there were lots of tunas around. So we battled this thing for 2 hours. We had to throw in one of the reels that we had because it was going to take all our line. You know, we couldn't even slow this tuna down. Yeah. And finally it stopped. It stopped taking line. So we started reeling them back in. And after about 45 minutes, you could see this big yellow, and blue reflection in the water. And you'll have to read the book to see what happened.
Ah, and that's how you get them, ladies and gentlemen. You catch them and then you don't tell nobody what else is going on. That's crazy. Oh my goodness. But it's really interesting. I'm glad that you were able to have that type of experience to be like, you know what, maybe somebody else can think about this and write this in a book. But why did you decide to write in a book? Why not just keep it as a memory for yourself? Like now we have an idea, but why write it in a book?
Well, I just thought it was something that I wanted to share with people, my enjoyment of it, and I wrote the book in a way that experienced people on the ocean could enjoy and learn a few things, as well as people who have never been on a boat in the ocean in their life. They can feel what it's like. I try to place the reader right in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico and get them to experience along with me.
Oh, well, that's good because I've only been on a boat off of the coast of Florida and towards like West Palm Beach, if I'm not mistaken. And it was choppy waters. It was intense because we went on this boat where like a whole bunch of other people were there and we all had fishing lines and they just instructed us and helped us reel it in. But it was so hard because the water is really choppy and you couldn't really tell. By the time you reeled in, I reeled in my line, my line was already cut. It was already broken as if like the fish already snagged it and left. You know what I mean? So it was very frustrating and I didn't really get much of experience besides burnt, you know what I mean, sunburnt. But it's a lot going on, you know. So what I mean, have you always been in boats? I mean, when was your first experience on a boat? Like how young were you?
Well, from the first time I was a little kid, around 11, I used to go to New
Oh.
Jersey. Yeah, and we would fish in New Jersey for bluefish. And I reeled in my first ocean fish at age 11. Yeah. But I know what you're talking about. Some days the water can be really rough and choppy, and it's not nearly as much fun as when it's nice and calm.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
it's nice and calm, it's the greatest thing in the world. But when it's choppy, I can understand. I've been seasick, and most people who've been out there at one point or another have been seasick. but I've never let it stop me though. I've always maintained the enjoyment. I try to only go when I know the weather's going to be really good. You always have to constantly monitor to see if there's any storms out there. Or you just be sure to be safe, because you're out in the ocean and things can change instantly.
Yeah, that's the thing. Things can really change instantly. You never know. And sometimes you can see, like, especially when I lived in Florida, you can see like storms coming from the distance, and like you kind of have to time it out and see, okay, is it coming my direction? Is the wind blowing this
Yeah,
way? You know what I mean? You kind of
yeah,
have to
yeah,
see it out because when it's clear on the water, it's like you can see for miles, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Miles on end. And
yeah.
and that's the
Yeah.
beauty of the ocean. I mean, do you also fish in lakes and rivers, or do you just like that ocean life?
No, I like it all. When I was a kid, I started out in freshwater fishing for like bluegills and sunnies and things like that. And I remember being about 7 or 8 years old and bringing a bucket full of little fish to my parents, and that kind of thing. But I enjoy all kinds of fishing, but I do prefer saltwater. I will say that.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. My first time fishing, I think, was back in 2012 or 2011, around then. And it was just in a river. Me and a couple friends, we just decided to go to the river, try fishing for the first time. We got our license because it was only like $5. Just get it, get your
Yeah.
license and let's go ahead and fish. Give us something to do. And I caught my first fish. It was a tiny little thing, just a tiny little thing, but I was so happy.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
joy of
Yeah.
just knowing
Uh,
that you're able to catch something is such a different type of feeling. And then people don't realize, like, this is a patience. This comes with patience. This comes with time. And if you don't like silence, you don't like that peace and tranquility, then maybe this isn't the area for you to venture into. But man, that's the one thing that I liked about fishing, is that it's really calm. It's really peaceful. You can just absorb the environment in such a way that it's like, oh, I love nature. You know what I mean? It's just the appreciation of nature, in my opinion.
oh yeah, I totally agree. When you're fishing, you're more in tune with everything in nature all around you, the birds, the sky, the water, everything. There's something very soul satisfying about fishing.
Oh yeah, most
I
definitely.
think it's innate in human beings. We've been fishing and gathering and hunting since the time that man has been on Earth. So I think it's natural for us.
Right? It's in our DNA. It's in our blood somewhere, somehow.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
when it
yeah,
comes out, it comes out. Oh,
yeah.
that's funny. So I'm curious, what is like the worst experience that you had out? Or is that in
Well,
the
I've
book too
been
that you don't want to tell us?
no, no. I've been, like I said, I've been seasick before. I remember one time when I was like, I don't know, maybe 12 or 13. We were fishing in the wintertime in New Jersey for codfish. And I got really sick. I started throwing up like crazy over the side of the boat and stuff. And man, it's not a pleasant feeling. But I'll tell you though, on some of those days when you're sick like that, when the fish start biting, you forget about all that and you reel them in. And once you're done, you can get sick again. Because usually while you're reeling them in, you forget about all that and you're fine. But
Okay.
yeah, it's not a pleasant feeling. It's awful. But pick the nice days to go out. You're not always going to get it right. The seas can get choppy, but there's nothing more fun and there's more of adrenaline rush than being out on a nice day fishing.
So what makes you fish until the night? You know what I mean? Do you have to prepare for this? I mean, do you get the big old lights so to light the water? I mean, how do you necessarily deal with fishing at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Well, yeah, the boats have lights that you use, and certain fish bite better at night. Actually, the red snapper bite at night really, really well, better than they do during the daytime. And yeah, not all fish bite at night though. Like groupers don't bite at night, but their snappers do. And the tuna do too. The tunas are weird because the tunas you never know what they're gonna do. Sometimes they'll bite like crazy. The other times they won't bite no matter what you're trying to do. So you just have to plan correctly, make sure that all your lines are tied properly, and you have the lighting and be ready to go because it could happen at any time.
Exactly, happen at any time. So, just to get off topic for a bit, if you could have any superpower, what would be your superpower?
A superpower.
Just to get to know
uh,
Bob.
a superpower. Well, boy. Make all the women in the world love me.
I think that would be a curse from what I hear.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That could
I
be
don't think
looked at either way.
that's too funny. Okay, okay, cool, cool. So what would you like people to actually get out from reading your book? Like,
Well,
what's
I
your
want them to enjoy the book, be entertained by it, but also learn a few things. Learn about nature, learn about the ocean, learn about what connects us to the oceans, and things like that. The book is good for all ages, starting around 7 or 8 years old, all the way up to adult. And I've had a lot of feedback from readers who've really enjoyed it.
That's good. That's good. Does it, I mean, as a writer, I like to ask other writers this. I mean, like when you started this journey, what was your first thoughts going in?
Well, you're never sure, um, your first time or second time, or even any time out there that people are going to like your work, and it's always like, you're a little bit nervous about it. But I thought I had a good work there. I was inspired by other books of the ocean, like The Old Man and the Sea and Moby Dick and things like that. So I knew that the subject is something people would like, and I tried to make it in a entertaining and a simple way, so anybody, like I said, people who've never been out on the ocean can feel what it's like.
That's good. That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're able to put it in that manner of just like anyone can read this. If you're just curious to know more about the water and life and sea life, I mean, why not pick it up and explore the thoughts of how it feels to be in the water, especially those people who are afraid of water. Reading books about these experiences is a great stepping stone to start realizing like, oh, it's not that bad. There's good parts. You know what I mean? It's because water is a great source to do great things, but it's also if it's uncontrolled and like strong, like hurricanes and you know what I mean, and tsunamis and things like that, it can actually really destroy a lot of places. So I think having this understanding of like, oh, the water, the way it made you feel, the way that you've seen it, I love the fact that you said it's like a flicker, it looked like glass and it was just glistening. Like that for me is beautiful and perfect because for me, every time I've been out into the water and out into the sea, that's how I see it too. It's like a mirror, it's just reflecting and it's so beautiful and peaceful to me. Like I used to just drive to the ocean and to the coast, or even now I'm in Wisconsin, but I get lakes, so I drive to lakes just so I can experience actual water because man, having that source of water is just so freeing. In my opinion, it's kind of like my medicine. I mean, for you, what's your form of medicine, or is this kind of like your medicine as well?
Water is definitely a medicine, and it's a medicine in many ways. It's soothing to your emotions and feelings and your spiritual nature, but it also has healing properties in the water itself, especially salt water, because it has a lot of condiments, the salt, potassium, different things like that are in the water that are really good for you to breathe that in. It clears your
Yes.
nasal passages and your lungs and all kinds of stuff. But the water itself, I think, has a calming effect on people, fresh water or salt water. So yeah, it's definitely a medicine for people for sure.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, what would you tell your younger self if you could tell your younger self anything at all? If you could tell little Bobby in there years, 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 years before, what would you tell little Bobby?
Well, fish more, but be conscientious about what you're fishing for, and never waste it. If you're going to fish and keep it, make sure you eat it or have somebody else eat it. Don't just fish for the sake of fishing.
Don't fish just for the sake of fishing. There you go. I like that because
Yeah, just conservation. It's good to conserve while you're fishing so the resource can still be there.
exactly. I like that. I think people need to really think about that. And I think especially when you're younger, you don't understand the way that things are working in the sea or biology with just animals in general and how it needs to just circle of life. So when we alter that as humans, it has a big effect on just the world in general. That's the reason why so many species are becoming endangered and it's a
Mhm.
scary place to think that we will no longer have certain animals anymore and they will be completely extinct. So especially when you're out fishing and you notice that their babies or a mother with that's pregnant, let that fish go. Allow the world to come to where it needs to be, and get the right fish or get the right animal that is appropriate. I think more people need to really think about that. I sometimes I watch games, um what is that, warden games, where it's those cops that come on and patrol fishermen and things like that,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
they check out what's in their boat and how many they got. I appreciate that show because it has educated me to
Yeah.
realize what you just said, because I was wondering about that, like, why are they doing this? And then I just had to wait, and they were like, oh, well, that makes sense. I mean, do you watch those type of shows?
I've seen them a couple of times, yeah, and it's happened to me. They've boarded my boat before, looking for stuff. I've never, they've never found anything because I've always done everything the right way. But they're always looking to see if you've exceeded the limits of your catch, or if you're keeping the fish that have to be the right size, and that sort of thing. And it's good they're out there because a lot of people will exploit it. Some knowingly, some not knowingly. But it's good that they're out there, always checking, always patrolling things to keep everybody honest.
Right. We can only break so many laws in one day, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So I guess to start wrapping up the show, what can be some lasting words of wisdom that you can give us?
Well, lasting words of wisdom. So, if you ever feel like being out on the water, don't let seasickness or anything like that stop you. Make sure, go out there and enjoy it, and have your day and a flicker in the water.
There you go. I like that. Easy said. So I guess another real quick question then, how do you handle seasickness or just the motion of the water?
It's awful. It really is. But there is one tip, though. When you're out there and you do feel a little queasy, look at the horizon in the sky. Don't look at the waves, or even look up at the sky, because it'll stabilize you. Because
Hmm.
the waviness is all around you. But if you look up at the sky, it will help stabilize you.
That's interesting. I took a ferry one time
Yeah.
from Puerto Rico to go to Culebra, and man, the waters was so bad that I had such bad seasickness. I felt like it just ruined me just because I couldn't handle it. And I just, instead of doing what you said, I made it worse and looked down, and I felt horrible. But I feel like as soon as,
Yeah.
if I would have looked up and just focused on the sky, I would have been better, because as soon as I looked up out of the boat, I did feel good, but the motion got me where it just like, it made me go down right away. So that's interesting. Thank you for that tip. So next time, because I've been avoiding boats ever since. I'm not gonna lie. Like I hate that feeling of motion sickness and the seasickness. It is the worst feeling for me. So that is good advice. Thank you so much for that. I'll take that. I'll write that down
Welcome.
and
You
take
can
it.
also take yeah. You can also excuse me, take a Dramamine, the pill, or they even
Oh,
have
okay.
these packets that you can put right behind your ear, and that helps a lot too.
Okay, okay. See, there's other stuff out there, ladies and
Mm.
gentlemen. All righty. Perfect, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Bob, for coming on to my show and to discussing your book with me. I really did have a great time discussing this. It was a really nice time talking about fishing and water. I mean, you can never get enough, right?
That's
So
right.
if anybody
Thank you,
wants to,
Missy.
thank you. Yeah, if anybody wants to know more about Bob and it wants to have access to his book, please check out my website. You find his lovely photo. Just click right there under and you get all the access that Bob has to offer the world. So with that being said, always keep thinking, y'all. Bye.